Okay, so Blizzard just announced a big balance update that's coming probably November 16th. They said that it's gonna happen early next week. So that way there is time for people to practice before the Masters Tour on the 19th. So that means it will probably be that Tuesday, which is the 16th. And there are 4 big changes happening. 1 buff, which I think is pretty cool, and I will talk about at the end because it's at the end. But then 3 big nerfs. So the first one is Razormane Battlegaurd. It's going from a 2-mana 2/3 to a 2-mana 2/2. This is something that I already said is something I wanted to see. Because if they didn't want to necessarily nerf the cost or the speed of the card directly, make it easier to remove. Now, let's just say you're playing Warlock. Now it is a lot easier to kill with the touch, right? If you're playing Quest Hunter, it's now easier to kill with something like Arcane Shot. It now dies to Rancor if you do a whole thing to Voosh the board. It actually now gains you armor to do that, and probably other removals that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, but those are the main ones that come to mind like immediately. Point is, it's a lot easier to kill now, which is going to be a really big deal. It's still going to be strong, it's still going to be a fast play, but it's no longer going to be as good of a play itself, and there are occasionally times when people would play it turn 2 to help cheese out a Greybow or a Teacher's Pet turn 3. But you can't really do that anymore because a 2-mana 2/2 would be way too vulnerable. So I like this nerf. It's going to lower the win rate of it a little bit. Not a ton, I don't think. I think there's still a lot of pieces about it that make it really strong. But this will lower a little bit, bring it back down to earth. And I think that this was a good nerf in general. And it wasn't just the typical, let's nerf it by a mana kind of strategy. Next one is Quest Mage. The battle cry is going from you have 3 spell damage for the rest of the game. It's now for the rest of the game you have 2 increased spell damage. I don't know if I like this change as much. I would have liked for this card to stay strong, but I wanted to see the draw of Mage nerfed, because this doesn't really address the fact that it's still very easy to go infinite with Ignite. And yes, this does address Cram Session, but I think it hits this deck a little bit too hard. I think what they should have done was just nerfed Cram Session as opposed to nerfing their overall damage output on their burst turn by like 4. Let's say they play Fireball, Ignite, Ruined Orb on 1 turn. They're losing like 4 damage, they're losing some card draw, and it feels less rewarding to finish the quest. That being said, I don't think it's necessarily a bad change either, because it was a really oppressive deck. It did stop a lot of fun decks from being played because it was just uninteractive. And this deck has been complained about enough to where I think that it warranted the change. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but I made a poll on the YouTubes where I basically said, okay, how problematic do you think Quest Mage is? And by far, it was just like a massive negative response. I can show you the poll right now. Okay, so here's the poll. The poll I put is on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you hate Quest Mage? And 83% either didn't care or disliked it to a moderate or large amount. I don't know why I put them all in parentheses, but you know, that's whatever. Point is, it was significantly hated in the Hearthstone community, and because of that, I do think that it still warranted the nerf that it got. Going on to Gerot. Now, deal 2 damage, shuffle 3 bleeds, deals 2 when drawn. Now it's deal 2 damage, shuffle 2 bleeds into the deck, that do 2 more when drawn. I don't know if I like this. It was a very, very strong deck, but to be fair, it was probably one of the highest skill cap Hearthstone decks in the meta in like a very long time. I think it was a very high skill cap deck, and I don't hate the fact that it was strong, and I do not like the fact that they've nerfed it to the point where it's unplayable. Like, you can't play this deck anymore. You literally just don't have the damage output to do 30 damage. Let's just say you get to play Ethereal Aug Merchant, Shadow Step them both, Ethereal Aug Merchant again. So 4 mana, you get 4 spell damage. Even if you have 4 spell damage, you're only gonna do 18, 36 damage. Absolute maximum potential. That's assuming you get to keep both Shadow Steps, so you don't Shadow Step a Field Contact, or a Prize Plunderer to kill something off, or a Wand Thief to get extra resources. Just the entire combo maybe does 36 damage. Which makes it a lot weaker into slower decks. It makes it basically just kills the card, which I don't like. I like nerfs that nerf it in a way that make it like harder to play, but don't entirely kill it. Like, maybe have it be 3 bleeds that do 1 to 2 damage, right? Like, or it'll do 1 damage the first one and then 2 damage the next one, or something along those lines. Just don't nerf it this bad, or just make its first cast not do damage, or make its first cast do 1, and then these all do 2, or 3 bleeds and make the damage of the bleeds only 1 instead of 2, so that way you get a little bit more out of the spell damage, so that way you get at least some extra damage. The point is, they nerfed it too much, in my opinion. So I'm not a huge fan. I do think it did need to be nerfed, but I don't like the way that they nerfed it, just because I don't like seeing decks entirely killed. And then another thing was Renew, which is buffed. Speaking of something that was previously killed, they nerfed Renew to the point where it was no longer playable, and they said, okay, let's revert the nerf and see if it makes Priest at least okay. I'm excited for this. I think that Renew was a very flexible, good card, and considering the amount of value a lot of other classes have, having a 1-mana Discover card isn't even that bad. Like, if you think about it, this was basically nerfed down to the point where it was a snack run. Like for Paladin, which was a 2-mana Discover spell, heal based on the cost of the spell. So usually a 2-mana, heal 2 or 3, get a spell. And that card sees no play because it is god-awful. So this one has a little bit more potential at 2 cost, but it has a lot more potential as 1 cost. I'm very excited about this. I think that 1 nerf, really good. 2nd nerf, okay. Not exactly what I would target, but fine. 1 nerf, pretty bad. I don't like seeing decks entirely die. And then the Renew was, honestly, good. I like it. I think Priest needs some help. And, yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the rundown real quick. I'm sorry that I ranted a little bit, but I am done. One more thing, I do recognize the fact that Renew can be discovered off of Wand Maker now. That is another reason why I think it's going to be good. Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. Some people in my chat were saying I didn't address that. I do know that that's now an interaction again. I just forgot to mention it.